The firing email hit my inbox at 6 in the morning before my coffee finished brewing. Failure to meet communication expectations, it read in corporate speak that made my stomach twist. I stared at the screen, remembering yesterday. 14 hours straight, fixing the mess Dante had created by promising a client impossible deadlines. When my phone buzzed at 2 in the morning with his name flashing, I finally did what I should have done months ago. I turned it off. He copied half the office on the termination email. My cheeks burned with shame as I imagined my coworkers reading it over breakfast. Dante loved public humiliation almost as much as he loved taking credit for my work. But something cold settled in my chest as I read it again. If he wanted to play dirty, I had been quietly collecting ammunition for months. Every late-night demand, every inappropriate comment, every expense report that made me raise an eyebrow. I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled Insurance. 3 years of evidence sat there, waiting. Dante thought he was teaching me a lesson about obedience. Instead, he had just given me the perfect reason to teach him about consequences. Game on. Security walked me to the conference room like I was dangerous. Maybe I was. Dante sat at the head of the table with his smug smile while Brenda from HR shuffled papers nervously. The glass walls made me feel like a zoo animal on display. They slid the termination paperwork across the mahogany surface along with a box of tissues. Such thoughtful touches for their little theater production. Dante leaned back in his chair, watching me with those cold eyes that had made countless employees cry. "We appreciate your years of service," Brenda said, avoiding eye contact. Her voice shook slightly. Even she knew this was wrong. I signed the papers with steady hands while Dante waited for tears that would never come. Under the table, I opened the encrypted folder on my phone. Screenshots, audio files, emails, 3 years of careful documentation. "Is there anything you need to know about your benefits?" Brenda asked. I smiled sweetly. "No thanks. I think I have everything I need." Dante's grin widened. He thought he had won. Poor Dante. He had no idea that the real show was about to begin, and he was going to be the star. Every insult had taught me to document everything. When Dante screamed at me for refusing unpaid weekend work, I recorded it. When he submitted fake receipts for business trips to his lake house, I saved copies. When he sent creepy messages to the college interns, I screenshotted them all. My digital archive was organized like a law library. Folder after folder of evidence, each one dated and backed up in 3 different places. Audio files where he bragged about keeping employees in line through fear. Expense reports showing personal purchases hidden as business costs. I had learned early that Dante's word meant nothing. He would promise raises that never came, blame others for his mistakes, and rewrite history to make himself look good. So I started keeping receipts for everything. The smoking gun was a recording where he laughed about cutting employee hours to teach them gratitude. His own voice, clear as day, admitting to wage theft while his buddies from the country club chuckled in the background. I called this folder my insurance policy. Today, I was cashing in the premium. Dante wanted to destroy my reputation with lies. I was about to destroy his career with truth. Justice feels different when you hold all the cards. In the bathroom mirror, I looked like someone who had been hit by a truck. My hair was messy, my eyes red from crying angry tears in the parking garage. But my hands were steady now. I retied my ponytail, washed my face, and practiced my voice until it sounded calm, professional, deadly. Dante expected me to leave broken and defeated. Instead, I was about to become his worst nightmare. Back at the conference table, I asked if I could collect my personal items. They nodded, probably relieved I wasn't making a scene. If they only knew the hurricane building inside me. I had one rule for situations like this. Never act in anger. Plan everything. Check twice. Leave no evidence of your own wrongdoing. Dante had given me the masterclass in being a terrible person. Time to show him what I had learned. My phone buzzed with a text from my coworker Kate. "Are you okay? This is insane." I typed back, "Better than okay. Watch the news later." The security guard looked bored as he waited for me to pack. He had no idea he was witnessing the opening scene of Dante's downfall. At my desk, I pulled up the client invoice system one last time. Months ago, I had flagged suspicious entries. Weekend trips to expensive resorts coded as team building. Personal flights disguised as vendor meetings. Dante's lake house visits labeled remote client consultations. Our biggest client, Gentech Industries, paid us millions yearly. They trusted us with their marketing budget. They had no idea their money was funding Dante's lifestyle. I crafted an email with surgical precision. Subject line: urgent, billing discrepancies requiring your attention. No drama, no accusations, just facts and attachments. Receipts showing Dante's beach vacation charged to their account. Photos of him jet skiing while supposedly in client meetings. I added copies of the fake expense reports, highlighted the suspicious patterns, and included a simple note. I thought you should be aware of these irregularities before they become a legal issue. My finger hovered over send. Once I pressed it, there would be no going back. Dante's world would start crumbling within hours. I thought about all the late nights, the impossible deadlines, the way he made junior employees cry. I thought about the raise he promised me that became budget constraints while he bought a new BMW. Click, send. The first domino fell. Next stop, human resources. Not Brenda, who was clearly terrified of Dante. I needed someone with actual power. I forwarded everything to corporate HR, the real headquarters, not our local branch office. The subject line was simple: hostile work environment documentation. I attached screenshots of Dante's messages to female employees, late-night texts asking personal questions, comments about appearances that made my skin crawl, requests for private meetings that had nothing to do with work. I included a list of names, every woman who had confided in me about Dante's behavior. I made sure to note that others had copies of these messages, so destroying evidence would be pointless. The most damaging file was a recording where Dante bragged to his golf buddies about hiring pretty girls to look at during boring meetings. His exact words, captured crystal clear on my phone during a company happy hour. I added one line to the email: this pattern of behavior has continued for 3 years. Multiple employees have documentation. Please investigate immediately. Corporate HR responded within 20 minutes. That had to be a record. The reply was brief: thank you for bringing this to our attention. We are launching an immediate investigation. Dante's phone started ringing. He had no idea the tsunami was just getting started. The audio files were Dante's own voice condemning him. I had hours of recordings from company events, meetings, and casual conversations where he revealed his true character. The black beauty of it was that Dante loved to talk, especially when he was drinking. My favorite was from the company Christmas party. Dante, 3 drinks in, explaining his management philosophy to a group of clients. Fear keeps employees motivated, he slurred into my phone's microphone. Give them too much comfort and they get lazy. I keep my people hungry. I uploaded the files to a secure whistleblower platform. No names attached, just Dante's voice speaking for itself. The recordings were time-stamped and verified. Even his expensive lawyers could not argue with his own words. I scheduled the posts to go live in 15-minute intervals, each one worse than the last. Dante admitting to timecard manipulation. Dante joking about sexual harassment policies. Dante describing how he inflated client bills to pay for personal expenses. The platform's comment section started filling up immediately. Current employees, former employees, even clients recognizing the voice. The truth was spreading faster than Dante could contain it. My phone buzzed with Dante's number. I let it go to voicemail. For the first time in 3 years, I did not have to answer his calls. I packed my personal items slowly, savoring each moment. The coffee mug my mom gave me for my first day. The small plant that somehow survived in the windowless office. The sweater I kept in my drawer for Dante's impossible overnight projects. Security guard Carl watched me with tired eyes. Sorry about this, he whispered. Dante's been gunning for you for months. We all knew it was coming. Don't be sorry, I replied, sealing the cardboard box with tape. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. Carl looked confused but shrugged. He had seen enough people escorted out to know everyone reacted differently. As I walked through the office, my coworkers stared. Some looked sympathetic. Others seemed scared, wondering if they were next. Kate mouthed, "Call me later," from her cubicle. I nodded and kept walking. The elevator doors closed with a soft ding. Through the glass walls I could see Dante pacing in his office, phone pressed to his ear. His face was red, His hands were moving frantically. My phone buzzed with the first client response. I smiled as the elevator descended. Dante had spent 3 years teaching me how to be ruthless. Time to show him I had been paying attention. Gentech Industries responded faster than I expected. The email was brief and professional. We are immediately suspending all payments pending a comprehensive audit of our billing relationship. Please provide all documentation related to charges from the past 18 months within 48 hours. I read it twice, sitting in my car in the parking garage. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from relief. Finally, someone was listening. Dante called 6 times in the next 10 minutes. Each voicemail was angrier than the last. First, he tried to sound reasonable. There's been a misunderstanding. We need to talk. By the 6th message, he was screaming threats about lawsuits and defamation. I saved each voicemail as evidence. Dante never could control his temper when things didn't go his way. Kate texted, "Holy hell, Gentech just called demanding to speak with the CEO. Dante looks like he's having a heart attack. What did you do?" I typed back, "Just shared some interesting receipts." Through the garage's glass walls, I could see people gathering around Dante's office. Word was spreading fast. In a company of 50 employees, secrets lasted about 5 minutes. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. A reporter from the Business Journal wanted to discuss recent allegations against your former employer. The dominoes were falling faster than I had imagined. My phone exploded with messages from colleagues. Everyone wanted to know if the rumors were true. Was Dante really being investigated? Were the audio recordings real? How long had I been documenting everything? The junior analyst Sophie sent a simple message. "Thank you for being brave. Some of us were too scared to speak up." That text hit me harder than Dante's firing ever could. I had not done this just for revenge. I had done it for everyone who suffered under Dante's reign of terror but felt too powerless to fight back. Another message from Tom in accounting. Finance department is in full panic mode. They're pulling all of Dante's expense reports from the past 2 years. This is insane. I sat in a coffee shop downtown, watching the chaos unfold through my phone screen. Dante's assistant posted on Instagram about looking for new opportunities. The HR department was calling emergency meetings. Even the CEO's office was taking calls from reporters. But the message that made me smile came from an intern who quit last year. I still have the texts where he asked me to work weekends for free. Should I send them to someone? I replied with the corporate HR email address and the whistleblower platform link. If Dante wanted to play games, we were about to show him what teamwork really looked like. Former employees started reaching out through social media and email. People I had not spoken to in months or years, all with the same story. Dante's inappropriate behavior, hidden evidence, fear of speaking up alone. Melissa, who left the company crying after Dante humiliated her in front of clients, sent me screenshots she had saved for 2 years. Messages where Dante suggested she could improve her performance review with private meetings at his office. Jordan, a talented designer who quit without another job lined up, shared audio recordings of Dante stealing his ideas and presenting them as original work. He had been documenting everything, hoping someday someone would listen. The pattern was clear. Dante had been a predator for years, counting on people's fear and isolation to protect him. But now the dam had broken. Victim after victim came forward with evidence, dates, witnesses. I created a secure shared folder and gave access to everyone who wanted to contribute. The folder grew rapidly. Dozens of files, hundreds of pieces of evidence, a comprehensive record of Dante's abuse of power. The local news station called, wanting to interview whistleblower sources. I declined, but referred them to the shared evidence folder. The story was bigger than any one person's testimony. It was about a culture of corruption that had infected our entire workplace. Corporate HR sent another email. Investigation expanded based on additional evidence. All relevant parties will be contacted for interviews. Dante's response was predictably desperate. He sent a company-wide email claiming the evidence was fabricated by a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. He used words like loyalty and family, the same words he weaponized to justify unpaid overtime and missed holidays. These malicious allegations are being spread by someone who could not handle our high-performance culture. His email read. I have always maintained the highest ethical standards and treated all employees with respect and professionalism. I laughed reading it in the coffee shop. Dante's version of respect included screaming at people until they cried, and his idea of professionalism was charging personal vacations to client accounts. But Dante made a crucial mistake in his denial email. He included specific details about the evidence, details that only someone guilty would know. He mentioned the doctored receipts and taken out of context recordings. How did he know exactly what evidence existed unless he remembered doing those things? I forwarded his denial email to the business journalist with a simple note. Compare his defense to the actual evidence. Notice how he knows exactly what he's accused of? Within an hour, the journalist published a side-by-side comparison. Dante's own words became proof of his guilt. His attempt to control the narrative backfired spectacularly. The comment section filled with current and former employees sharing their own stories. Dante's reputation was becoming a public bonfire, and he had supplied all the fuel. The board of directors finally woke up. A calm but serious email landed in my inbox from the chairman himself, requesting a confidential phone call. I set conditions. The call would be recorded, I wanted a witness present, and I needed written assurance that there would be no retaliation against current employees who supported the investigation. They agreed faster than I expected. That told me everything I needed to know about how seriously they were taking this situation. During the call, the chairman's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. Not at me, at Dante. How long has this been going on? He asked. I sent them a timeline spanning 3 years, organized by category: financial fraud, harassment, intimidation, wage theft. Each entry had supporting documentation and witness contacts. Why didn't anyone report this sooner? The chairman asked. People tried, I replied. Dante controlled the local HR department. Complaints disappeared. Witnesses were intimidated or fired for performance issues within weeks of speaking up. There was a long silence. Then, we're calling an emergency board meeting. This investigation is now our top priority. After hanging up, I felt something I had not experienced in years. Hope that justice actually existed in corporate America. The board was furious. They had been liability exposed for years, while Dante turned their company into his personal piggy bank. Internal audit requested complete access to all evidence. I provided a read-only link to the shared folder, now containing over 200 files from dozens of sources. The scope of Dante's corruption was staggering. The audit team's first question was about the Q2 Retreat Lakeview Resort expense. I smiled. That weekend, Dante claimed to be conducting team-building exercises while actually taking his college buddies fishing on the company dime. Check the timestamps on his social media posts that weekend, I suggested. Cross-reference them with the expense report, claiming he was in client meetings. The photos showed Dante drinking beer on a boat at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. The same day, he submitted billable hours to 3 different clients. Either Dante had invented teleportation, or he was a systematic liar and thief. Audit requested access to Dante's company credit card statements, phone records, and computer files. Each piece of evidence revealed new layers of fraud. Personal purchases disguised as office supplies. Hotel rooms for non-business trips. Restaurant bills for dates charged to client entertainment budgets. The audit manager called me personally. In 15 years of investigations, I have never seen documentation this comprehensive. You have enough evidence to support criminal charges. I replied, good. File them. The machine Dante thought he controlled was now grinding him into dust, and I was feeding it documentation by the pound. Dante tried to destroy my reputation before the investigation could destroy his. He spread rumors that I was unstable and obsessed with bringing him down. He claimed I was fired for poor performance and was fabricating evidence out of spite. His version painted me as the villain, a disgruntled employee who could not handle criticism and was now lying to hurt an innocent manager. He even suggested I had mental health issues that made me unreliable. I responded with facts. I posted my performance reviews from the past 3 years, all positive, with multiple commendations for exceeding goals. I shared thank you emails from satisfied clients. I included Dante's own messages praising my work. right up until the week he fired me. The contrast was devastating. Dante's story required people to believe that a consistently high-performing employee suddenly became delusional and decided to fabricate hundreds of pieces of evidence involving dozens of witnesses. My story only required people to believe that a manager with unlimited power and no oversight had gradually become corrupt. Former colleagues began sharing their own experiences on social media. The pattern was always the same. Dante would praise people publicly while abusing them privately, then discredit anyone who threatened to expose him. But this time, he had miscalculated. There were too many witnesses, too much evidence, and too much media attention for his usual intimidation tactics to work. Dante's next move was straight out of the corporate scandal playbook. Buy the problem's silence. A message appeared in my personal email from Dante's private account, offering a mutually beneficial settlement to resolve this misunderstanding. No apology. No admission of wrongdoing. Just hush money wrapped in legal language. He offered 6 months' salary in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement and correcting the public record about recent misstatements. I forwarded the email to the board chairman, the audit team, and the journalist covering the story. No commentary needed. Dante's attempt to bribe me into silence spoke for itself. The chairman's response was immediate. This settlement offer has been noted as evidence of consciousness of guilt. Please forward any other communications from the subject. Dante had just admitted he was guilty of something worth paying to hide. His own lawyer probably told him to never put settlement offers in writing, but Dante was panicking and making mistakes. The settlement offer became front-page news in the business section. Embattled executive attempts to silence whistleblower ran as the headline, with Dante's email printed in full. His attempt to buy my silence backfired so spectacularly that I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. 17 When bribery failed, Dante switched to threats. Through back channels and mutual connections, word reached me that I should be careful about making accusations against powerful people, that I might find myself facing expensive lawsuits that could destroy my career. But Dante had made a critical error. He had threatened the wrong person at the wrong time. I forwarded every threat to the FBI tip line, the state attorney general's office, and the corporate security team investigating his behavior. Threatening witnesses is a federal crime. Dante's attempts at intimidation became additional evidence against him. My lawyer, recommended by a friend who had survived her own workplace harassment case, was delighted with Dante's stupidity. Most defendants try to stay quiet during investigations, she laughed. Your former boss is building our case for us. The board's attorney contacted me directly. Any threats against witnesses will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We're documenting everything. Dante's intimidation campaign backfired in another way. It convinced the remaining fence-sitters that I was telling the truth. Why would someone innocent need to threaten and silence witnesses? The investigation expanded to include witness tampering charges. Dante's hole kept getting deeper, and he kept digging. The bombshell came from an unexpected source. A vendor Dante had been working with for years reached out through LinkedIn with screenshots that made my jaw drop. Hidden bank accounts, shell companies, kickback arrangements where Dante received personal payments for steering contracts to specific vendors. The corruption went deeper than expense report fraud. Dante had built an entire shadow economy around his position. I had uncovered his petty theft and harassment. This vendor had evidence of actual organized crime, money laundering, tax evasion, and systematic fraud totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars. The vendor, scared of legal liability for their own involvement, wanted immunity in exchange for cooperation. They had kept detailed records of every payment, every fake invoice, every laundered transaction. I connected them directly with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. This was beyond corporate misconduct. Dante was looking at federal prison time. Within days, unmarked cars appeared in the company parking lot. Federal agents interviewed employees, seized computers, and froze bank accounts. Dante's corruption had attracted the attention of multiple law enforcement agencies. What started as workplace harassment had become a federal criminal investigation. Dante's greed had finally outgrown his ability to hide it. Desperate and cornered, Dante tried to sacrifice someone else to save himself. Word leaked that he planned to blame the financial fraud on Angela, the quiet bookkeeper who had worked at the company for 15 years. Angela was the perfect scapegoat in Dante's mind. Trusted with financial access, not politically connected, unlikely to fight back aggressively. Dante's story would be that she had been embezzling money and forging his signatures on fraudulent documents. But I had audio recordings of Dante personally directing Angela to process his fake expenses. His own voice giving her specific instructions on how to code personal purchases as business expenses. I sent the recordings to the federal investigators with a clear timeline. Every instance where Dante had personally ordered financial fraud, often while Angela protested that the expenses seemed inappropriate. Angela called me in tears. "Thank you for saving me. I was so scared they would believe his lies." The investigators assured her that she was now considered a cooperating witness, not a target of the investigation. Dante's attempt to frame an innocent person only added more criminal charges to his growing list. Justice felt especially sweet when it protected someone as kind and hardworking as Angela from Dante's desperate selfishness. The final blow came from Dante's own current employees. 23 people signed a group letter detailing years of abuse, wage theft, discrimination, and retaliation. Current staff risked their jobs to speak truth about Dante's reign of terror. I read their letter with tears in my eyes. Story after story of the same pattern. Talented people broken down by Dante's systematic cruelty. Missed family dinners for fake emergencies. Health problems from chronic stress. Careers derailed by Dante's retaliation against anyone who questioned his methods. The letter was calm, factual, and devastating. No hysteria or exaggeration, just 23 professionals stating their experiences with corporate precision. Major media outlets picked up the story. Mass uprising against abusive executive. Ran in newspapers across the country. Dante became a symbol of everything wrong with corporate culture in America. The employee letter accomplished something my individual complaints never could. It showed Dante's behavior was not about personal conflicts or misunderstandings. It was a systematic pattern of abuse affecting dozens of people over multiple years. Corporate headquarters could no longer pretend this was an isolated incident or personality clash. With federal investigations, media attention, and mass employee complaints, Dante had become an existential threat to the company's survival. The board called an emergency meeting. Dante's time was running out. Gentek Industries, our largest client representing 40% of company revenue, held an emergency meeting with the board of directors. I was not invited, but Kate texted me updates throughout the day. "They're pulling out," she wrote. "Complete contract termination, effective immediately." My hands shook reading the message. I had wanted Dante to face consequences, but losing the company's biggest client would hurt innocent employees too. Kate sent another message. "CEO is having a panic attack. They're talking about laying off half the staff." I felt sick. My quest for justice was about to destroy the livelihoods of people who had nothing to do with Dante's crimes. But then Kate sent more details. "Wait, Gentek says they'll consider coming back if Dante is gone and the company implements serious reforms. They want new management, ethics training, and independent oversight." The client was not abandoning the company. They were demanding Dante's removal as the price of staying. Gentek's ultimatum gave the board political cover to do what they should have done years ago. By evening, the board announced Dante was suspended, pending investigation. The company released a statement promising comprehensive reforms to ensure ethical leadership. Gentek agreed to honor existing contracts under interim management. Justice was finally arriving, and it looked like most jobs would be saved. The most personal evidence came from someone close to Dante, a family member tired of watching him destroy lives while playing the victim at home. They sent me photos of Dante's company phone being used for personal business that violated multiple federal laws. I was selective with this evidence. I had no interest in destroying Dante's family or creating scandal for entertainment. I only forwarded materials that documented clear violations of law or company policy. But what remained was damning. Dante using company resources to coordinate personal investments, discussing insider trading opportunities, and planning tax evasion schemes. all documented in his own text messages and emails. I sent the evidence directly to the FBI and IRS investigators, not to media outlets. The goal was justice, not tabloid drama. Dante's family had suffered enough from his behavior. They didn't deserve to be humiliated in the news. The investigators thanked me for being discriminating with sensitive evidence. They had everything they needed for criminal charges, without dragging innocents through public shame. Dante's personal corruption was now fully documented. He had used his corporate position to commit crimes that extended far beyond the workplace. The investigation was approaching its conclusion, and Dante was running out of places to hide. Months earlier, when I first started documenting Dante's behavior, I had set up a digital dead man's switch. If anything happened to me or my evidence was destroyed, encrypted files would automatically be sent to journalists, law enforcement, and regulatory agencies. I disabled the system now, smiling at my own paranoia. The truth was already public. Dante's crimes were being investigated by multiple agencies. My insurance policy was no longer needed. But knowing the failsafe had existed gave me confidence throughout the entire ordeal. I had walked into battle knowing that Dante could not silence me even if he destroyed me. The system had been my security blanket during the scariest moments. When Dante threatened lawsuits, when his supporters spread lies about my mental state, when I wondered if anyone would believe me against someone so powerful. You negotiate differently when you hold all the cards, and your opponent cannot flip the table. Dante had spent 3 years teaching me that power without accountability leads to corruption. He had also inadvertently taught me how to use accountability to check power. The irony was perfect. Dante's own behavior had trained me to defeat him. Dante's final scene played out on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Security escorted him from the building while employees watched from office windows. No dramatic speech, no last display of authority, just a broken man carrying a cardboard box that seemed too light for everything he was losing. The internal memo was brief. Effective immediately, Dante Henderson has been terminated for cause following completion of internal investigation. An external statement regarding leadership changes will be released shortly. I was not there to witness his downfall, but Sophie sent me a photo. Dante walking to his car in the rain, shoulders hunched, face pale. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by the loss of the authority he had abused for so long. The federal indictment was unsealed the next day. 12 counts including fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and witness intimidation. Dante's mugshot appeared on the evening news alongside a recap of his spectacular fall from grace. I sat in my apartment that night, processing the surreal victory. 3 months ago, I had been his victim. Now Dante faced decades in federal prison, while I was free to rebuild my career anywhere I chose. I texted the junior employees who had suffered under Dante. You were never imagining it. You were never wrong. You deserve better. 2 months later, I started work at a consulting firm where my boundaries were respected and my expertise was valued. The owner interviewed me personally after reading about the Dante case in business magazines. We need someone who stands up for what's right, she said. Someone who documents everything and is not afraid of powerful bullies. My first week, a colleague tried to pressure me into working through my vacation days. I calmly declined and explained my boundaries. He backed down immediately, apologizing for the request. I kept the coffee mug and the small plant from my old office, reminders that I had survived Dante's worst and emerged stronger. But I also kept something else, the folder of evidence that brought him down, not for revenge or blackmail, but as a reminder of my own power. I had learned to fight back systematically, legally, and effectively. No future tyrant would find me unprepared. I sleep through every night now, including 2 a.m. calls that no longer come. When people ask why I left my previous job, I say simply, because I stopped pretending abuse was normal. And then I live like someone who finally remembered that respect is not negotiable, boundaries are not optional, and justice, when armed with evidence and patience, is inevitable.